Hey there, welcome to Nerdarchy, for nerds by nerds. I'm Nerdarchist Ryan, and today I'm joined by
Dave.
Ted.
And so today is a bit of a GM 911. We have a message from TTTV's Timmy. There's still did I add an extra T? But TTV's Timmy, and it's regarding using cutscenes in your game. So that's when you in the middle of your session.
Did you say Twitter?
This did come in via Twitter. Yep, thank you for that.
Yeah. We do look at all the social medias,
all the stuffs. So this is like when you have a moment in your game where it's really just exposition. You're just letting your characters know that this thing is happening. They're not really in the scene, or like you're narrating this thing that they're witnessing it, and they're not really getting a lot of time to engage in it. So let's have a pro con on that.
Okay.
Well, go ahead.
The way I look at it is I look at a cutscene is different from what a character is saying. Because if you're narrating what's going on that the characters can see,
then they should engage with it.
They have the ability to engage. Even if you want to finish the description, you can say, all right, you'll have your chance, but I'm doing my thing. Where a cutscene is something that they are somehow either through magic or just through whatever.
It just makes the story cooler sometimes.
Just making the story cooler, that something else is happening elsewhere that they're getting to see. That's the way I personally would describe a cutscene. I don't know if you guys see it differently.
Well, I've seen it used in the Provokers game. And really, so okay, here's the thing. Like with that, it's strictly for the audience, I would say, because the characters actually have no way of knowing what's going on in this cutscene. Like unless like there's magic or something involved, but this was specific, like a story element.
Yeah, well, I mean, but that's the thing. Like in this hobby, like there's no right or wrong way to do it. So if you want to give that exposition to your players, you absolutely can. There's nothing stopping you.
There's barriers. People will show up to your house in suits and dark glasses.
The RPG, please.
Yeah.
Personally, it's not my particular style to do it. You know, I don't want to give away information to the players at the table, or the characters that are part of the story, more information than they would normally be able to get. If you want to do a cutscene while a person is describing something that's happened in the past or that kind of stuff, I mean, you technically can, but then it's still just in my opinion, a narration of what has actually happened. But
isn't that in essence what a cutscene is? Is a narration of something that's going on somewhere else or in another time? But I mean, like you're
so saying, I mean, an example of that too, like the Harry Potter movies, like so. If you looked at Harry Potter as an RPG, like there's a scene where he goes and he's looking into the collection of Dumbledore's tears, right?
Yeah.
But he's like seeing the past, and he has no agency because he can't interact with anything. So he's just seeing these scenes unfold. So every single one of those, if he were the player, was like a cutscene.
Yeah.
I feel like in the question though, what they're really asking is like basically the DM monologuing to the players about things that they really wouldn't have agency over, and they wouldn't have the ability to affect. Or either that, or they got to be giving away information. He's giving away information that they're going to be able to then interact.
That they're going to need, or
if
whatever.
They metagame.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I personally wouldn't use them.
So here, I think might be a good way to use it.
Okay.
Say you have all these characters that have like knowledge skills, knowledge history or whatever, and maybe like. That the odds are pretty good that the character is like going to nail his check at some point in time, and you just like exposition this thing that he read about, and so you're giving him the story of the thing that he read, and that might be a slick little way to slide in. Like you'll have useful information, but there'll also be some fluff that like builds out your world if that's a thing you wanted to do.
Well, I like that. I think that definitely adds more flair and flavor to the situation.
Your sage character, your bard, like both of those characters would be great to slide.
I've also I think it was Dungeon Master Johnny that talked about using skill checks and basically almost doing like a cutscene back into the past when a particular thing came up. Using that skill and how they would know a certain thing. So and it basically it's a little bit of peel back into the history of a particular character in the story, especially your players. Now the cutscene though, where you're going somewhere else, you know, in this time, and basically like you're doing the villain is doing this,
like you're watching the TV show of it, and you're seeing the cut to the next thing.
Well, that's how I feel like the cutscene's being used in this instance, and what they're asking. How do you feel about that?
So with that particular angle, I'm against it. You know, taking the spotlight away from what the players have direct hand in, I think gives away too much stuff. It changes the focus of the game. I mean, it definitely adds more realism and shows people that, hey, it's not just about you. There are other elements going on in this world. But I think, especially with 5th edition, it's designed a more heroic feel, a more champion role for the players. So like putting that particular element in, I think lowers them down a notch.
Okay, I just thought of another really cool instance that you could successfully pull off a cutscene. Think to Lord of the Rings, where Aragorn like finds a scene of the battle where the two hobbits were abducted, Merry and Pippin. He's like, through his ranger tracking ability, reconstructing what happened, and they're cutting back to what actually happened as he's using his tracking skill. So you could actually have like the character who pulls off a really good survival check reconstruct the battle that happened, or maybe there's some other skill to investigate.
Right. Yeah, it goes back to the DM Johnny thing with using the skill to describe something.
Absolutely. But I mean, having like an anecdotal, like this is something that was done before and you can clearly see it, like that's somebody doing it really well. Whereas like, all right, after you set the parameters of, as the GM, having the group of people that you want to game with and are going to play the kind of game that you would really like to run, like everybody's bought into it. After that, the game really is about those characters. So anything that you do that makes it less about that characters is generally a faux pas. It's a bad thing. So
yeah, well, and only that too. Like there's so many, there's other problems that will spring up. Like I like the flexibility as a DM of changing the story as I want, like as I need.
That didn't really work. Yeah,
but if you start doing a lot of this cutscene stuff, you're kind of
locked into that.
You're setting things that have to stay there, and they may not make sense later on in your story. Maybe your players completely go away from that story, and then you still have this thing over there
because it was the story that they didn't want to tell or engage with, and there's this other thing that was way more interesting to them.
So, like, I could definitely see how a DM could abuse this and be like, this is my ultimate power as the DM to make you guys hear my story. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's like, writing a short story or a novel and then making your characters, like, your players read it, like enforcing them within the context of the game.
All right, so let's actually, quote unquote, stat it out. We've got the pros, we've got the cons.
AC 20, hit point 73.
So,
legendary actions.
So the pros of doing the cutscenes is you show a wider world. You get more narration as to what's actually going on.
It's an interesting way to convey information.
It's an interesting way to convey information. It allows you as the DM to, as Ryan was saying, actually build out your world a little bit.
Show them some of the lore and this and that.
Yeah. So did I miss anything? Does that cover the pros?
And it gives you a little more exposition of story. I don't know if that was kind of already covered, but yeah.
All right. So the negatives, it can either give characters information or force characters to metagame with stuff that they wouldn't know about. It detracts away from
the shared storytelling experience.
Is there anything else that falls?
Well, the fact that it does kind of lock you into certain aspects of the story.
Yeah, so your story becomes inflexible at that point too.
So, it used the right way, it's a great tool. It used in a way that detracts from your players, not so much. I mean, and let's face it, even when Matt clicked it on the Brokers games, it was really brief and it was like one interlude.
Yeah.
But again, like it was still something, like it was for, like I could see it because of the fact that he's broadcasting a game online and there's a wider audience watching. So that part was for them.
Yeah.
So it works a lot better. But at your table, when you're just gaming with your buddies, or you're at an adventure league or whatever, I don't think it's nearly as useful.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like I think Matt was doing it to build tension, like oh shit, these guys are after us, like so he was using it like really to try to like strike fear into the players, you know, like, so it was really to elicit an emotional response, you know, like, so I mean, you know, it wasn't the worst thing, you know.
Well, no, it wasn't. It wasn't bad.
He did it super well. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. Hey, Matt, if you happen to watch this, why don't you drop in the comments below? You can explain to us your thinking and why you do it, or better yet, do a video on it. We'd love to check it out.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I guess with that, everyone else, you know, you can also put below in the comments what you think, how you feel about it. Yay or nay on the cutscenes. While you're at it, hit like, subscribe, and share.
Let's see. You can patronize us in a good way over at Patreon.
Or you can check out articles at nerdarchy.com.
Well, until next
time, stay nerdy.